Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the new Mythic of Umenath. This ended up coming in last Friday while I was gone, and is only available for a few more hours as far as exclusive in Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests. After this fact, it will only be in Soulforge viably with 4,000 diamonds. It'll still be in Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests after the time ends up expiring. However, so will every other Mythic in the game, making it a lot less chance of getting it. However, for these last few hours, it is still the only one in the drop table, so we are going to go and, of course, get it, show it, do some teams for it, and later tonight I will be testing it as well and seeing what we can do with it and see if it might have any further uses. As far as this troop, it is a weird mix of about 3 different troops, but doesn't excel better than any one of those 3. Well, except maybe Wolf Garrick. But it's basically a mix of Zuul'goth, which is worse than, Web Spinner, which is worse than, and kind of like a Wolf Garrick and Ubistet, in which case it's slightly better than Wolf Garrick and about the same as probably an Ubistet. And Ubistet's still pretty underwhelming, and Wolf Garrick has pretty much always been underwhelming. But basically what it does is it deals damage to an enemy and is boosted by all their skills at a 2-to-1 boost ratio. This will make it particularly good against teams that gain a lot of attack and a lot of magic, because these do not give it any durability, but will end up increasing the amount of damage this mythic can do to them. Unfortunately, that build is relatively not really used that much. Very few things will end up magic buffing. There are a few in there, like Vespera and stuff like that. But the biggest issue is basically nothing really attack buffs these days. There's some that might do a single attack buff, like Mang and things like that. But very rarely do you see teams that build around the entire team gaining attack simultaneously, as more often than not, it is a waste, particularly on defend. So yeah, given that that's one of the better things he's good against, that's going to be a little bit weird, given that it's not really that meta at the moment and very, very rarely used. Other than that, if an enemy dies, it does have a kill condition, ends up gaining 10 attack and then creates 12 skulls. 12 skulls being the exact same thing that Zuul'goth does. Its secondary effect isn't as good, only a 10 attack instead of a freeze burn, but still a little bit extra attack to synergize with his traits that he has. Traits on paper are actually pretty good, just the traits alone. It's mostly the ability that's keeping it back a little bit, just because of its inconsistency of getting one-shots. If it can consistently one-shot, it'd be worth it. But this boost ratio, depending on what the enemy stats are, is going to put it just ever so slightly below being able to kill. And if it can get a kill, then yes, this is going to be pretty good. If it can constantly keep one-shotting into one-shot into one-shot. But whenever it can't get a one-shot is where it'll be held back, because just doing some damage to it without getting that skull spam like something like a Zuul'goth would is going to put its value down quite a bit compared to what it could potentially be. But in that, as far as traits, it is okay. The main reason I say it's kind of like a web spinner is it does have the automatic extra damage. It deals 2 times skull damage to everything that can be hunters marked. This is going to be pretty decent, given that it has 2 different ways of gaining additional attack naturally. One off of every single extra turn, gaining 4 additional attack, as well as if it ever gets a kill, it gains 10 additional attack, which isn't much when you're upscaling, but still ends up adding if you're doing it for more so a PvP kind of situation, or even potentially bringing it into Guild Wars, though personally I would not advise using this for Guild Wars due to its inconsistency. And other than that, it also has 20% agile, always pretty nice to have a little bit of skull dodge. Unfortunately, they didn't end up giving some kind of new trait of like 25 or maybe some kind of other higher one for it, but still 20%, not too bad. It's mostly good against counter skull spam, so if your spam ends up missing for whatever reason, the 12 skulls, it'll at least have some chance to completely negate that out. So a little nice there. Overall, going to be a rather average, slightly above average mythic, and probably one I would say is worth skipping. But we are going to go and get it, mess around with it, and see what we can do. And of course, we will be starting with gem keys and then going from there. Hopefully we'll get it in a very small amount, just so we don't have to burn through all 1,700 of our gem keys. Or really, that's about how many we have at this exact moment in time. And for whatever reason, chests do not want to open right now. There we go. Speaking of web spinner, there's a better version. The main reason why it is better is it just has a higher initial damage. Even though it doesn't gain attack, you still have the triple damage on it, and you can still attack buff into that if you really wanted to give it even higher attack with various things. Winter Imp, do keep in mind, Winter Imp is still available January and February. Or sorry, not January, February, my bad. December and January, Winter Imp's available. So if you're still looking for it, it is actually still at this exact moment in time in Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests. Though do keep in mind, by the time that next Mythic rolls around, next month's Mythic, it will not be in the drop table anymore. It'll be Imp of Love at that point. So you still have some time to go get Winter Imp if you want. It is the best of the 6 seasonal imps, that they end up rotating through, so worth considering. Mostly used with Vespera as far as meta methods for it, but still better than nothing. At least it has some kind of purpose, and the main reason it's so much better is Winter Imp has true damage, whereas none of the other imps have any amount of true damage on them, so the extra little bit of magic it gains is just more effective, specifically on the Winter Imp. But hopefully we'll get this Mythic soon without burning through too many keys. That'd be quite unfortunate if we do go all the way down to 0 gem keys, though we have plenty of other keys if that was to happen. But hopefully we can avoid it here. Getting quite a few other things. Sakima is actually one thing I didn't end up making any teams for here that could potentially have some potential with it. Sakima ends up being a Rashka. Obviously this Mythic is Divine and Rashka, so it has some potential being used with other Rashkas, of course, or within various Divine teams like Divine Ishbala Quillen, which is one of them that I did show. But yeah, you can end up getting that synergy, especially with that new Rashka Guardian that ended up coming in. The purple one that ends up giving a bunch of extra stats to all Rashkas definitely has some decent synergy potential with this Mythic, potentially into the future as well, being particularly good. So, here's the Umenath. Of course, this is the only Mythic currently in the drop table for the next last few hours before it's not anymore. But here is the Umenath, and let's go get this thing maxed. We just showed all of its things, so let's see what it looks like all the way maxed and actually use this thing into some teams. So let's go to upgradable. Should be showing right up here. Where'd it go? There it is, all the way at the end there. So, of course, this is a Mythic, so we can just simply orbit. So we'll just go use a major green, major orange, and boom, it is now maxed. So easy as that. Obviously, we're not going to metal it because that is ultra expensive to do on Mythics. And now we don't ever buy that because it's over expensive. And now let's go and slot it into some teams and see what we can do with this. So right over here, we'll just go and get our Umenaths going. Replace out all the Ketris placeholders and get them in. Ketris is, I guess, kind of like it. Not really. It's almost like an inverse Ketris in a way, in that they just share the same color, which is why I slotted it there. But it ends up having basically the inverse boost ratio. This thing boost ratio is 2 to 1 based on all the enemy stats, whereas Ketris boost ratio is 2 to 1 on all of your own stats. Generally, it is better to boost ratio. Well, I guess it depends on the situation. But in the case of this thing's ability, it's actually better to boost ratio on your own stats, like something like a Ketris, rather than the enemies. And the main reason for that is because for something like this ability, if you try upscaling with it, the biggest issue you're going to have is he will not be able to one-shot. Unless they have like an absurdly high attack and magic relative to their durability, they will not be able to one-shot just because of how the 2 to 1 is going to work relative to its HP and armor value. If you do an armor tier on it, it would. So for example, if you have a Rope Dar or a Megavore or some kind of other similar mechanic, you can go tier all their armor, and that armor tier into your 2 to 1 boost ratio will be able to upscale to get the kill. The problem with that is you basically have to do a 2-cast setup in order to make them work properly, which is something that a lot of other things can do within a single 1-cast setup, or repetitively after a 1-cast setup. For example, with a Rope Dart, you'd have to do it each individual time, whereas if you guys have tried into Ketris, you'd only have to do it like once, maybe twice, and you'd already have all the boost ratio you need, whereas Rope Dart, you would have to do it for every single troop you'd want to do it to. But nonetheless, that's actually how we're starting. Rope Dart. Using this thing for the extra Rashka bonus, the new Guardian that came in pretty recently, and Leprechaun to hold us down on mana. We're also using Sunspear, which also counts as a Rashka, since it counts as the Pride Lands Rashka as far as its typing. But we'll start with this. Main premise of this is basically to feed this as many stats as we possibly can, and to synergize it with Rope Darts so it actually can secure its one-shots if it happens to not have one-shots by other means. One thing to keep in mind is Entangle actually will end up reducing down its amount of damage, so we do want to target for something other than the initial Tangle that we have there. So one other slightly annoying thing about this boost ratio, unlike something like a Ketris or other similar things, is boost ratios do auto-calculate. However, when you have multiple things that it can be used on, it doesn't auto-calculate. And one issue with this is, given that it can target any of the enemies, it will not auto-calculate out the math on it. So I'm obviously not going to do all the math on it right now, but you can see right now, let's just say we want to try killing this. We did end up getting it that time. But depending on the overall stats of the enemy, particularly when you're upscaling, it will not have enough boost ratio to kill. But in that particular instance, it actually did, so that's good. So let's go and get a Rope Dart, go kill out Hero. That will definitely 100% kill it out. Actually, you know what? Let's see if we can actually get enough damage to kill that. Do we? Yes. Okay, good. And then we can just do that right into the Hero, and then it dies out. So as you can see, very similar to that of a Zuul'goth. If it can get a kill, it's actually technically ever so slightly better than a Zuul'goth in the fact that it only needs 25 mana to cycle, whereas Zuul'goth needs 32, so 7 mana cost cheaper. However, you don't get the very needed freeze, which is one of the biggest things that you end up missing out if you do end up going this route. And you also don't have the guarantee kill. As stats get higher, he will not have enough boost ratio to secure kill, so do be wary of that. But anyways, let's go into our next battle. Next one we have here is going to be the Divine Ishbala method. So Divine Ishbala Quillen combo. You can also run this with Rope Darts and with Doomed Glaive. I showed it with Anu Scepter as this is the cheapest possible option, so a little bit easier to copy in. But do keep in mind that the blue Doomed Blade as well as the Rope Dart do also work as options here, potentially as even better options. But we'll go and start off with messing around with it like this. If nothing else, Anu Scepter, one nice benefit of this, it's a really low mana cost way to go and mana generate, especially if you're just missing blue from a team. Easy way to just slot some blue in there in order to accumulate a lot of mana. So right here, I guess we're going to go for a purple. 12 will not be, actually yes, 12 would be enough mana. Not sure if I want to do that, though. Deny every yellow on the board just to go give it mana, given that I am using a priest build with this. So I'm actually going to do purple, mostly because I do want to keep yellows on the board just because of how heavily yellow-based this team is, and also because we might need it for some convert. So right here, we unfortunately do not have alignment, and we're also entangle on first law. That's something we don't want to see. And another big downside of him, you do not want to get entangled on that thing. Similar to Web Spinner and other similar skull spam options, it is very dependent on having the its skull damage. So whenever it gets entangled, that is not a good situation to be in. But hopefully we'll get unentangled soon. One thing that we could also slot here if we didn't want to go Anus and if we really want to cleanse, other than having to set Cedrics, we could also go the option of putting a Mercy there. Mercy would slot into this team and would work decently if we wanted to go down that option. But we'll go and start getting Divine Ishbala Quillen going. See if we can get any other alignment there. We can. Hopefully we'll get some reds into first slot and feed right back into it. See if we can go get that kill over there. Do we have any other drop? I guess we'll take it. Actually, one thing I want to go see. Will this have enough boost ratio to actually kill that? I think it might. Let's go see. Do you have enough damage? Why do I feel like the answer is no? It's these kind of situations. Oh, gosh, I can't even target if I wanted to. I think it wouldn't have had enough damage there. It seems like for PvP instances, it does have enough damage. But in many other instances, it likely would not. Because you have to keep in mind that as stats get higher, the amount of durability that they overall have will be higher than the amount of attack and magic that they have. So when we're at this lower level range, or, you know, similar level range, when things have similar stats, it's not as big of a gap. But as we start getting higher and higher and higher, that gap becomes bigger and compared to their total amount of magic and attack relative to their HP and armor value. And as that gap gets bigger, the less chance he will have of actually securing the kill. But for PvP instances, I'm actually surprised. I didn't think it would end up having enough boost ratio, but I guess it does. Because if we break down every single value here, like let's say like right here, for example, we have a 20. This one's actually pretty easy to calculate out. So we have a 20, we have a 50, we have an 80. Let's see, a bunch of maths. That's 100, 150, and then we have, let's just call that 60. So that's 210. So 210 divided by 2, we have ourselves a, oh, sorry, did I say 210? Gosh, what did I just say? Fail. Redo math. 100, 50, 60. That's 210, 105. 105 plus whatever its value is. That is a 105 plus 39. 105 plus 39 is 144, right? I think I did math right. Hopefully. So 144. Would that be enough damage to kill it? Yes, it would. So, yeah, in that instance, it was able to do it. But as HP and armor gets higher, it will not. So for current PvP, that actually doesn't seem too bad. This Megavore team is more so for upscaling. One thing that you can do, of course, to more consistently get kills when you are outside of kill range, like if you were doing higher level content with higher stats, is you can armor tier, of course. You can do this with Rope Dart, you can do this with many options, but one nice thing about Megavore is you only have to do it once and then you don't have to worry about it again. Also, Megavore has 8% chance to instant kill, and we just got one there. Obviously, that's pretty rare, but always pretty helpful when it ends up occurring. So we'll go get the kill on that, get that out. Do keep in mind, like happened right there, he can end up missing his skull spam. So do be careful with that. He does have 20% agile to help recover some from that, but it's not going to be enough sometimes. As you can see, we almost died. He did not end up getting the agile there, and he basically almost killed himself. And there's Megavore getting another 8%. Gosh, Megavore basically just carried that entire team with extremely lucky 8%. But I didn't even really get to show the actual mechanic. But of course, you can throw down Megavore, get the 4x tier there, and with the 4x tier, even if you're fighting stuff that has higher stats, you'll most likely have enough boost ratio to go and kill the enemy out by taking their attack and magic combined with their remaining HP in order to go and kill them out off of the boost ratio. Because when you only have something like HP, the 2-to-1 boost ratio, even when upscaling, should be able to use the attack and magic to have enough that it would end up getting the kill. Because most things, attack and magic in combination, will be higher than their HP value. And if that's the case, then it will essentially always kill regardless of how far you've upscaled. If the enemy that you end up targeting has a higher, if you've torn their armor and their attack and magic is higher than their HP, it will 100% always the time kill. Even if this thing was webbed, it would still end up getting the kill in those situations. So that's kind of one of the reasons between using Megavore, Rope Dart, things like that, things like Armor Tier. It just gives it a little bit more consistency when upscaling. But for PvP instances, yeah, it does seem like the current state of PvP, though this could change depending on your level range or the kind of overall durability where you're at. Or as durability gets higher, obviously, and then higher level content. But for our normal PvP, it does seem like it does have the capability of killing pretty consistently. I'm actually surprised. Thought it wouldn't, but it does. But yeah, overall, it's definitely not the worst Mythic. It's basically... What I consider this Mythic is, do you own Zuul'goth? If the answer is no, you might want to get this. If the answer is yes, then you probably don't want to get this, because it's honestly just a other version of Zuul'goth. It's probably in most situations not as good, but it's the Zuul'goth that you would get if you can't afford to actually go get 8 power orbs to go get a Zuul'goth. So great to consider if you do want a Zuul'goth-like troop. Personally, I don't tend to use Zuul'goth that often, but this thing can be used slightly different than Zuul'goth in that it actually has a stronger start than Zuul'goth, just because it has a more of an initial attack because of its thing, with its extra 2x damage. Plus it has some dodge. While Zuul'goth does have the benefit of having impervious, this does have a little bit of dodge, which can make it a little bit tankier, of course, in first slot. But overall, pretty interesting troop. Still would only place it slightly above average as far as Mythics are concerned. It's more towards probably like a 10th or 15th craft, probably closer to 15 or so. If you had to choose between what Mythics are within Pride Lands, what are the two right now? I believe it's Umenath and Umenath. If you did have to consider between the two, I would actually say this is better than Umenath, at least in the current state of the game. So if you are choosing a Pride Lands Mythic to go get 10 plus stars on the kingdom, I would say Umenath is the better option of the two. And if you want to go get it into the future, if you don't end up picking it up when it was exclusive just in the Glory Gem Guild and VIP chest, keep in mind you can just get it in Soulforge sometime in the future for 4,000 diamonds, and that would be the most viable point in order to get it going forward. But anyways, guys, that's the Mythic. We'll be messing around with it more later tonight. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. The teams will also be in the comment section below, of course, as always as well. And I will catch all of you later. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye, everyone.